My wife came in through the front door last Tuesday evening wearing that look. You know the one. The same expression she uses when she's about to announce we're rearranging the living room again for the third time this month. But this time there was something different. She set her Starbucks on the kitchen counter and turned to me like it was no big deal. "I've been thinking," she said, and my alert level went straight up. Nothing good ever follows those words from a married woman. I need some space. Just a week on my own to figure things out. I froze my show and met her eyes. Figure what out, exactly? She started doing that hand wave thing like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. You know, life stuff. Who I am, what I want. The girls at work say it's healthy for couples to take breaks. The girls at work. Of course. I should have guessed this bright idea wasn't original. These were the same co-workers who convinced her to buy that $200 face cream promising to make her look 25 again. "So you want me to pack up and leave for a week while you have your little self-discovery retreat?" I asked, putting the remote down. "Well, not necessarily you leaving. Maybe I'll stay at my sister's." I leaned back and stared at her. Something felt off. Her eye contact kept slipping and she kept fiddling with her wedding ring. Classic tells. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want to abandon your husband for a week to find yourself, because your work friends think it's brilliant?" "It's not abandoning. It's taking healthy space," she snapped defensively. "Healthy space, right? And what exactly are you going to discover about yourself that you can't hear?" She got immediately defensive. "Why are you making this so hard? It's only 7 days. Most husbands would be thrilled to have the house to themselves." That's when it hit me. She wasn't asking for permission. She was telling me what she'd already decided and assuming I'd just accept it. I stood up and moved closer. "You know what? You're absolutely right." Her face brightened. Surprise flickered across it. "Really? Absolutely. In fact, why stop at a week? Why not make it forever?" The color left her face. "What do you mean?" I smiled and walked to the kitchen. "If you need space that badly, who am I to stand in your way? You should have all the space you want, permanently." "That's not what I meant, and you know it, don't you?" she protested. I grabbed a water and took a long sip. "You just told me you need to figure out who you are and what you want. That sounds like someone who's unsure about their marriage." She backpedaled fast. "I didn't say anything about our marriage. You said you needed time to figure out what you want," I repeated. "Which implies you're not sure you want this." I gestured between us. "You're twisting my words." "Am I? Because it sounds like you're testing how I'll react to you walking away." "Well, congrats. You found out." Panic flashed in her eyes. Her co-worker's script was clearly not playing out. "You're overreacting," she said thinly. I laughed. "My wife just told me she wants to leave me for a week to see if she wants to stay married, and I'm the one overreacting for taking her at her word." "That's not what I said." "Then explain it to me. Use small words so I can follow." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I just need time to think about what's specifically wrong with everything." "Everything?" I echoed. Long pause. And there it was. The truth she'd been dancing around for 10 minutes. "Well then," I said, setting my bottle down. "I appreciate your honesty. Take all the time you need." "What does that mean?" she asked. I walked toward the stairs. "It means I'll help you get exactly what you want. All the space and time in the world to figure out who you are and what you want. Why wait until tomorrow to start your journey of self-discovery? Where are you going to get your luggage?" I could hear her trailing behind me, her tone rising. "This is crazy. I just wanted a week, and you're giving me more than that. You should be thanking me." As I pulled her suitcase from the closet, I could almost hear the mental gears grinding. This wasn't how she imagined it. She'd probably expected me to beg, to bargain, to promise to fix whatever imaginary issues she'd convinced herself we had. Instead, she got precisely what she asked for, and the look on her face told me it wasn't what she wanted. She stood in the doorway watching me fold her clothes with methodical care. Each piece slid into the suitcase like I was packing for a work trip, not the end of a marriage. "This is insane," she kept repeating. "You're being irrational." I held up one of her favorite sweaters. "Should I pack this? It might get cold during your soul-searching adventure." Stop calling it that. What would you prefer? Your journey of self-discovery? Your temporary abdication of marital duties? She dropped onto the bed. I never said I wanted to leave you permanently. No, I said. You just said you needed to figure out what you want in life. Apparently that includes whether you want to stay married. I kept packing. I'm just saving us both some time. You're putting words in my mouth. I stopped and looked at her. Am I? Because about 3 months ago, you started staying late more. 2 months ago, you stopped initiating physical contact. Last month, you began guarding your phone and smiling at messages you never showed me. Her face went pale. Should I continue? Because I've got a whole timeline of your gradual disengagement from this marriage. That's not, she stammered. Wasn't what? Checking out emotionally, planning your exit strategy. I zipped a section of the suitcase. The only surprise is you thought I wouldn't notice. She tried a different tactic. Okay, maybe I've been distant lately, but that's exactly why I need this time, to figure out what's wrong and fix it. Fix what? Me. Us. The fact you decided to get married in the first place. I asked. I don't know, she snapped. That's why I need space to think. I nodded as if considering. And what exactly will you think about during this week? Let me save you time. Either you want to be married to me or you don't. Either you love me enough to work through whatever midlife crisis this is or you don't. No amount of alone time will change those fundamental facts. She began to cry, not raw grief, but the calculated tears of someone losing control of the narrative. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. What pressure? I asked. To be a wife. To honor the vows you said? Everything's just so complicated. I sat across from her. No, it really isn't. You know what's complicated? Trying to rebuild trust after your spouse asks for a trial separation. You know what's simple? Deciding whether you want to be married. It's not that black and white. Actually, it is. Marriage isn't a part-time job you can take a vacation from when things get hard. She wiped her eyes. I thought you loved me. I do love you, I said, which is why I'm not going to beg you to stay somewhere you don't want to be. If you need to leave to figure out your feelings, then go. But don't expect me to wait around like Plan B while you decide if I'm worth keeping. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Because from where I'm sitting, you just told your husband you need a break from him to decide if you want to remain married. How else should I interpret that? She had no answer. I went back to packing. Your sister's place, right? That's where you'll stay. Ah yes. Good. She's always thought you could do better than me anyway. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to host your marriage evaluation retreat. Why are you being so cold? She asked. I stared at her. Cold. You just asked permission to temporarily leave our marriage, and you think I'm cold for taking you seriously. She tried to grab my hands. I pulled away. Please don't do this. Can't we just talk? We are talking. You want space. I'm giving you space. You want time. I'm giving you all the time you want. What else is left to discuss? I don't want you to hate me. I don't hate you, but I respect myself enough not to sit around waiting for you to decide whether I'm worth keeping. I closed the suitcase and set it at the door. There you go. Everything you need for your week of self-discovery. She stared at that bag like it was a bomb. I can't believe you're actually doing this. What did you expect? That I'd plead with you? That I'd promise to morph into whatever version of me you think you want? I expected you to fight for us. I am fighting for us. Then fight for a marriage where both people want to be there. If you need to go to figure out if you want to be here, go. But don't confuse my self-respect with a lack of love. Her hands shook as she picked up the suitcase. What if I change my mind? She asked. About what? Wanting space? Wanting to be married to me? About everything. I walked her to the front door. Then you'll have to convince me you actually know what you want, instead of just reacting to whatever your co-workers suggested this week. She stood on the porch with her bag looking somehow smaller, as if she'd shrunk in the last hour. This isn't how I thought it would go, she whispered. No, I said, closing the door. I imagine it isn't. The house felt different after she left. Not empty, just honest. No more tiptoeing, no more pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I poured a whiskey and sat at her laptop. She'd left her social accounts logged in. Normally, I wouldn't invade her privacy, but normally my wife wouldn't ask for a trial separation either. What I found didn't shock me. It confirmed everything I suspected. Messages with someone named Ryan from her office. Months of exchanges that began as innocuous work talk and slowly got personal. Complaining about me, about feeling trapped, about how he really understands her. The timeline matched her behavioral shifts, late nights, phone secrecy, emotional distance. She'd been having an affair, not physical yet, but emotional betrayal cuts just as deep. The most recent message was from yesterday. Can't wait to spend some real time together this week. Finally going to tell him I need space. So the whole journey of self-discovery was code for testing the waters with her office boyfriend while keeping me as backup. Classic. My phone buzzed. A text from her sister. She's here crying her eyes out. Says you kicked her out. What happened? I typed back. Ask her about Ryan from work. Then ask her who really kicked who out. 3 dots showed, then vanished, then returned. Finally. What do you mean? Instead of explaining, I screenshotted a thread and sent it. Her sister replied immediately. Oh my god, I had no idea. She told me you guys were having problems and she needed time to think. We weren't having problems. She was manufacturing them to justify her emotional affair. My phone rang. Her sister. I can't believe this, she said. She's sitting in my living room playing the victim, and she's been cheating on you emotionally. Yes, I said. And I suspect it would have gone further during her planned week of space. She kept saying you were being unreasonable because you wouldn't even discuss it. Hard to discuss when the person asking for space already decided and just wants you to accept it. What are you going to do? She asked. Exactly what I'm doing. Giving her all the space she wants. She thinks you'll come crawling back in a few days. I laughed. Does she now? You always cave when she gets upset. You'll realize you're being stubborn and apologize, she said. Well, she's about to learn something new about her husband. After hanging up, I spent an hour documenting everything. Screenshots, dates, a timeline. Not for vindictive reasons, but to have a clear record of how we arrived here. Around 9 p.m. my phone started buzzing with texts from her. I'm sorry about earlier. I think we both said things we didn't mean. Can we talk tomorrow? I miss you already. I don't want to fight anymore. This is stupid. I didn't reply. The next morning brought more. Your silence is really hurtful. I'm trying to fix this. I made a mistake asking for space. Can I come home? Why won't you answer me? Around noon, she called. I let it go to voicemail. Look, I get you're angry, but ignoring me won't solve anything. I realized last night I don't need time away from you. I need time with you. Can we talk? The irony was perfect. 24 hours earlier, she was certain she needed to leave to figure out her life. Overnight, she'd reached enlightenment and decided what she needed was me. Of course, what she'd really discovered was that her backup plan wasn't responding to her manipulation the way she expected. I called her back that evening. Thank God, she answered on the first ring. I thought you were never going to speak to me again. I was starting to think about it. Don't say that, I said. Look, I know I handled this wrong. I shouldn't have asked for space. I was confused and overwhelmed and let my co-workers get in my head. Your co-workers? I asked. Yes. They kept telling me marriage shouldn't feel routine, that I should be happier, that maybe we rushed into things. I started believing them. And what about Ryan? I asked. Silence. Ryan, from your office, the one you've been confiding in about our marriage problems, the one you were planning to spend your week of space with. More silence. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally said, which contradicted months of messages I could show her. You went through my private messages, she accused. You left your laptop open when you moved out to go find yourself. I was curious what kind of soul-searching you were planning. That's a violation of privacy, she said. And having an emotional affair with a coworker while planning a trial separation isn't a violation of marriage vows? I asked. It's not an affair. We're just friends. Friends who talk about how trapped she feels. Friends who can't wait to spend real time together this week. Time together once you get rid of your inconvenient husband. You're taking those messages out of context. Am I? Because the context looks pretty clear to me. You've been emotionally unfaithful, got swept up in the fantasy and decided to try a temporary separation to see if the grass was greener. That's not. It wasn't like that. Then tell me how it was. Be specific this time. Another long pause. It started as ordinary work talk. He was going through a divorce and I was feeling disconnected from you. We just complained about how bad your marriage seemed, how we were both struggling, and then it escalated. Nothing physical happened yet, but it would have during your week of space, wouldn't it? She started crying again. I made a mistake. I got confused, but I know now I want to be with you because your plan backfired. Because I realized what's important. No, because you realized I wasn't going to sit around while you chose between me and your coworker. He's not my boyfriend. What would you call a man you're emotionally intimate with behind your husband's back? She had no answer. She showed up at my door the next evening without warning. I watched her sit in the car for 10 minutes through the window, probably rehearsing whatever speech she'd prepared. When I opened the door, she looked exhausted, as if she hadn't slept. Good. We need to talk. She pushed past me into the house. Actually, we don't. You said you needed space to figure things out. I'm giving you exactly that. I don't want space anymore. I want to come home. I closed the door and leaned my back against it. And I want a wife who doesn't need to leave me to decide if she wants to stay married. Guess we're both disappointed. She turned and I could see the tears. Makeup tried to hide it, but couldn't mask the puffiness. I know you read my messages with Ryan. Is that what we're calling him now? Ryan, not my coworker, or just a friend? Fine. Yes, I talked to him about our problems, but it never went beyond talking. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed 2 bottles of water, and tossed one to her. Define beyond talking. We never kissed, never touched, never did anything physical. But you wanted to. That's not the point. Exactly the point. You were emotionally cheating with this guy, planning to use your week of space to explore whatever fantasy you'd built up. She slammed the bottle down on the counter. You're right. Okay. Is that what you want to hear? I was attracted to him. I liked the attention. I liked feeling wanted and interesting again. Again. When did you stop feeling wanted by your husband? When you stopped trying to win me over every day. When we fell into a routine. When you started taking me for granted. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. So this is my fault. I didn't try hard enough to keep you entertained, so you started shopping for a replacement. I didn't say it was your fault. You just did. You said I stopped trying, took you for granted, let us fall into a routine, code for you being driven into another man's arms. I was lonely. You were married to me. If you were lonely, you should have told me, not your office boyfriend. I tried talking to you. When? Because I distinctly remember you growing distant and cold, but I don't remember any conversations about feeling lonely or disconnected. She paced the kitchen. You never noticed how unhappy I was. I noticed you pulling away. I noticed you guarding your phone. I noticed late nights, coming home exhausted and annoyed. What I didn't see was you doing anything to fix whatever was wrong. I shouldn't have to spell out every feeling. No, but you shouldn't be spelling them out to other men either. Ryan understood what I was going through. Ryan was going through a divorce. Of course he understood. Misery loves company, and you were the perfect audience for his victim story. He wasn't playing the victim, was he? Let me guess. His ex didn't understand him. She was cold and distant and unappreciative. Sound familiar? Her face flushed. It's not the same. It's exactly the same. He fed you a sob story about his failed marriage. You related to it, and suddenly our marriage looked terrible by comparison. That's not how it happened. Then how did it happen? Walk me through it. From colleagues to emotional affair. She sank into a kitchen chair. He was just kind to me. He listened when I talked. He made me feel like what I said mattered. And I didn't. Not lately. I wasn't treating every conversation like a therapy session because I assumed my wife of 3 years was happy unless she told me otherwise. You never asked how I was feeling. I asked you every day how your day was. You said, fine, every time. That's not the same thing. Then what should I have asked? How's your emotional state? Are you satisfied with your life choices? On a scale from 1 to 10, how committed are you to this marriage today? Don't be sarcastic. I'm not. I'm trying to understand what miracle question I should have asked that would have stopped you from seeking emotional intimacy with another man. You could have noticed I was struggling. I did notice. I asked if you wanted to talk. You said everything was fine. I suggested we do something together on weekends. You were tired. I proposed a vacation. You said we couldn't afford it. Those weren't the right conversations. What would have been right? Apparently, I was supposed to read your mind and start some precise discussion that would save our marriage. She wiped her eyes. I just needed to feel like you still wanted me around. I married you. I come home to you every day. I sleep next to you every night. I assumed that proved I wanted you around. It felt like obligation, not desire. And Ryan made me feel desired. Yes, by complaining about his wife and telling you how much better you were. He made you feel special, made you his confidant and potential rebound. There's a difference. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got bored with being married to me, found someone who made you feel special and different, and convinced yourself that meant we had a real problem. We did have problems. Normal marriage stuff. Routine, familiarity, the settling that happens when you stop trying to impress each other every day. What we didn't have were insurmountable problems. Then why did I feel disconnected? Because you chose to. Because instead of talking to your husband about it, you took it to another man. Because rather than putting energy into fixing what we had, you invested energy into exploring what might be with someone else. She stood up suddenly. So what now? You're just going to throw away 3 years of marriage because I made a mistake? I'm not throwing anything away. You did when you decided to test drive a separation to see if you preferred your coworker. I told you I realized I was wrong. You realized your backup plan wouldn't wait for you to choose him. That's not the same as realizing you were wrong. That's not fair. Fair. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you coming to me with your concerns instead of taking them to another man. Fair would have been you working on our marriage instead of planning to leave it. I'm here now trying to work on it. No, you're here trying to control the fallout after your plan collapsed. The truth hit her like cold water. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. I know what I did was wrong, she finally said softly. Do you? Because 5 minutes ago you were still blaming me for not being attentive enough. Word travels fast in small circles. By Friday her sister had told her mom told my mom called my brother, and my brother, diplomatic soul that he is, shared the highlights with half our friend group. The phone calls started coming in. Dude, what the hell happened? That was Jake, my college buddy who'd been best man at our wedding. She asked for space to figure out her life. I gave her all the space she could want, but she's telling people you kicked her out for no reason. Is she now? Did she mention the coworker she's been emotionally cheating with for months? Silence. Then, wait, what? I filled him in. By the time I finished, he was whistling low. Man, that's brutal. And she really thought you'd just wait around while she figured out if she wanted to trade up? Apparently. So what a piece of work. You need anything? Want to grab a beer and talk? Thanks, but I'm good. I handled this better than I expected. The clarity was almost refreshing. No more wondering why she'd been distant. No more blaming myself for what I hadn't done. No more walking on eggshells around someone who was already halfway out the door. Saturday morning her sister called again. She's a mess, she said. Crying non-stop, barely eating. Keep saying she made the biggest mistake of her life. Probably more about losing her backup plan than losing me. I don't think that's fair. She seems genuinely sorry. Sorry she got caught or sorry she did it. Maybe both. Not good enough. Look, I know she did wrong, but people make mistakes. Can't you at least consider counseling? Counseling works when both people want to be there. She only wants to be here now because Plan B failed. How do you know that? Because if she truly wanted to work on our marriage, she would have come to me months ago when she first felt disconnected. Instead, she went to him. Her sister sighed. She's my little sister. I hate seeing her like this. I hate that it came to this, too, but I didn't cause it. Sunday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor, Ryan himself on my front porch, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Can we talk? He asked when I opened the door. Sure, you can talk from right there on the porch. He shifted. Look, I know this is awkward, but I wanted you to know nothing physical ever happened between us. Congratulations. You won a medal for not sleeping with my wife. I just thought you should know. What I know is you spent months undermining my marriage by encouraging my wife to confide in you instead of her husband. She was unhappy. I just listened. You did more than listen. You validated her complaints, made her feel justified in being dissatisfied, and gave her emotional intimacy that should have been reserved for her spouse. I was going through a divorce. We were both struggling, and you used that shared struggle to build an inappropriate relationship with a married woman. He looked at his shoes. I didn't mean for it to go that far, but it did. And now you're here. Why? To apologize. To explain. To warn me to stay away. To tell you she really does love you. The whole time we talked, she kept saying how much she loved you but felt like you'd stopped seeing her. Right up until she asked for a trial separation to explore her options with you. That wasn't. She was confused. I think she realizes now what we had wasn't real. What you had was an emotional affair built on shared dissatisfaction with your respective marriages. Of course it wasn't real. She wants to fix things with you. And what do you want, Ryan? He looked surprised. What do you mean? I mean, are you here because she asked you to come? Because you feel guilty? Because you hope I'll take her back so you can stop feeling like the bad guy? I guess all of those. Well, here's free advice. Next time you're going through a divorce, talk to a therapist instead of someone else's wife. He nodded and began to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this better than most guys would. Most would be begging their wives to come back and promising to fix whatever imaginary problems drove them away. Yeah. She said she expected you to fight for her. I am fighting for her, the version of her that would never put our marriage at risk for attention from another man. Monday brought backlash at her workplace. Office gossip had the story, and it wasn't flattering. Her best friend from work called me Tuesday night. I had no idea what was going on between her and Ryan, she said. I feel terrible we encouraged her to take space without knowing the whole story. You encouraged her to leave her marriage based on what exactly? She said you guys had problems, that you'd grown apart, that she wasn't happy. Did she mention she was confiding in another man instead of talking to her husband? No. God, no. If we'd known that, we never would've. That changes everything. It sure does. She's not returning to work until next week, too embarrassed to face everyone. Smart. Office affairs make things awkward. She keeps calling, texting, asking if you've said anything about taking her back. What should I do? Long pause. Honestly, I think she made her choice when she got involved with Ryan. If my husband did what she did, I don't think I could get past it, even if it was just emotional. Physical affairs can be about lust or opportunity. Emotional affairs are about choosing someone else for intimacy. That's harder to forgive. Wednesday evening she came by again. This time she looked different. More determined, less desperate. I know you probably don't want to see me, she said. You're right. I don't. I resigned from my job today, she added. I raised an eyebrow. Congratulations. I did it to show you I'm serious about fixing this, about cutting ties with Ryan and focusing on us. That's nice. Anything else? I started seeing a therapist to figure out why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. Good for you. I'm not asking you to take me back right now. I know I have to prove I've changed, but please don't give up on us completely. I leaned in the doorway. What exactly do you think has changed besides your job and therapist appointments? I understand now that what I did was cheating, not just a mistake or lapse in judgment. Actual cheating. And I understand you have every right to be done with me. I understand I betrayed your trust, disrespected our marriage, and traded something beautiful for attention from someone who didn't even really want me. Anything else you understand? I understand if you give me another chance it would be a gift I don't deserve. And I understand you probably won't, and I'll have to live with that. For the first time since this began, she sounded sincere. Here's what I understand, I said. I understand you got bored with being married to me and went looking for excitement elsewhere. I understand you convinced yourself our problems were my fault so you could justify your emotional affair. And I understand you only want to fix things now because your backup plan failed. That may not be true anymore. Maybe not, but it was true when you asked for space to figure out your life. She nodded, tears returning. It was. You're right. So the question isn't whether you want to try to fix things now. The question is whether I can ever trust someone who is willing to throw away our marriage for a fantasy with a coworker. She had no answer. Good, because neither did I. 2 weeks later the divorce papers were filed. Clean, simple, no contest. She'd moved back in with her parents after quitting her job, and I heard through mutual friends that Ryan had transferred to another department to avoid the drama. She called one last time on a Thursday evening. The papers came today, she said quietly. Good. Everything should be straightforward since we don't have kids or big assets to split. Is this really what you want? I sat back in the chair and looked around the house that finally felt calm again. You asked me that same question 2 weeks ago when you wanted space to figure out your life. I'm just giving you a permanent answer. I know I messed up. Doesn't 3 years of marriage count for anything? It counted for everything, which is why what you did hurt so badly. I love you. You loved the security I provided while you explored your options. That's not the same thing. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? Asking your husband for space to figure out if you want to stay married while planning to spend that time with another man. Long silence. I lost everything, didn't I? You traded everything for nothing. There's a difference. Ryan wants nothing to do with me now. Says I misread the signals. I almost laughed. Of course he does. He got his ego boost from a married woman's attention, and now he's back to his divorce. You were never the endgame. I realize that now. Little late for that revelation. I wish I could take it back. I wish you'd talk to me instead of him, but we can't rewrite history. So that's it. We're done. We were done the moment you looked outside our marriage for what you thought was missing inside. I hope someday you can forgive me. I already have. Forgiving you and trusting you again are two different things. After I hung up, I poured that whiskey I'd been saving for special occasions. This felt special enough. Not celebratory, but significant. 3 months later I ran into her at Target. She looked smaller, somehow older. When she saw me she started to approach, then changed her mind and headed down another aisle. I didn't follow. 6 months after that I heard she'd moved to another state to start over. Her sister mentioned it casually when we bumped into each other at Starbucks. She asks about you sometimes, her sister said. I hope she's doing well. Are you doing well? I mean, I thought about it. The house was quieter now, but not lonely. I'd started going to the gym again, picked up hobbies I'd neglected, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Yeah, I said. I really am. Any regrets? Just one. I regret not realizing sooner that someone who truly wanted to be with me wouldn't need to leave to figure that out. Walking back to my car, I reflected on everything that had happened. She'd asked for a week to figure out her life, and I'd given her exactly what she needed. All the space in the world to discover the grass isn't always greener and that some choices can't be undone. The funny thing about self-respect is once you stop compromising it, everything else becomes clearer. I learned I'd rather be alone than be with someone who saw me as an option instead of a choice. And honestly, That felt like the most valuable lesson of all. Our story has ended.